Thank you, Leslie. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rian Vandermeer. I'm a senior solution partner here at Neudesic, and today we're going to look at how do you maximize your customer interactions and use the intelligence you've got around your customer and their experiences with you before and their potential needs to really maximize your marketing, sales, and customer experience initiatives. Now, a bit about Neudesic. Um, as a partner, we provide multiple services that allows us to, as we focus on CRM, for instance, pull from all the other knowledge in our company to actually maximize your experience. So, for instance, if we need to look at user experience specifically, we've got teams for that. If we need to look at business intelligence, we look at mobility. We always see customer relationship management as more of a journey than just a single transaction, really. So, as a partner, we positioned to help you actually transform your business to a new digital workspace and help you with your digital evolution. Now, the new challenges in customer experience for us, and we can see it looking at Gartner and other things, is very strongly around the demand for increased communication and transparency. If I deal with my bank, I want to know what's happening with the processes. If I register a complaint with a company, I want to know precisely what's happening, how this is flowing, how it's getting addressed. And also, self-service has become a basic need compared to just being a nice to have. So the zero human interaction. And obviously, around the transparency as well, there's a lot more governmental, industry wide controls these days. So you need to be able to show that you're meeting SLAs and have an easy way and a transparent way to have people see your business processes to really lift that veil around how you interact with your customers. Now, one of the big trends we've been seeing specifically around marketing, but then also just sales in general and your customer experience is the positioning that it's really becoming how your customers feel about you as a company that's going to drive how you market ultimately. It's the whole word of mouth experience and outcomes. So when I buy something from you these days, I actually already know a lot of things about you. I've looked at your competitors. I've already halfway or more down the process. So gone are the days when you're really the first person giving your customer information. And because everything is now so driven around social, it's becoming very hard to really penetrate those markets with just social blasts and having a presence. It's more you need to have customers that really love what they buy from you and then advocate it out. It's all about direct customer references, which you really can't control. You can obviously respond back to them and put processes in place to handle the sentiment on that. And there's a number of tools, especially in the Dynamics suite, around handling the whole sentiment analysis and seeing issues on Facebook and responding to those. But without your other customers really becoming advocates for you and really expanding that surface of selling, it's going to be harder and harder to compete in this market and just in general the social market out there. If you look at how the customer interactions have changed, the days of you engage with someone, they discover your project, they explore, they buy it, that's gone. It's now really there are so many touch points, from ads being directed to you, videos, seeing apps, speaking to people online, even in store, reading reviews, liking, your friends liking. It's becoming a really complex digital environment. And as we all evolve into that space to survive, Our backend systems really need to support this, and the way we interact with customers need to support this. I need to know as much as possible about that customer to direct marketing, to position um, how I sell to them indirectly. Now, I think the industries we see being impacted mostly is banking and finance, healthcare, hospitality, and retail. And as we've worked with these verticals a lot, it's actually becoming um, very interesting to look at where these different industries are in general in terms of their adoption into this new customer experience paradigm and digital workplace environment. Today we'll be looking specifically at maturity scales there, and then also looking at a couple of examples of the IP we have and things we've done in this space. Now, this is a maturity scale we've put together as we see customer experience. Obviously, I think these are all perspectives, and you may have different feelings about where your industries or related industries fall. These are the ones we see at the moment. I think healthcare we're seeing really being in the incubation space. So the whole Ritz-Carlton experience that some of the top providers are pushing in terms of providing the services. We're seeing that. We're seeing satisfaction scores driving hospitals. We're seeing a lot of the governmental outcome-based things driving that. On the more payer side, I think we really see that as being an incubation and slowly but surely coming online. The big payers are realizing that it's a lot more about the individual customers than doing the big deals, business to business. And we also see that they've got a really big data problem in terms of really getting the operational data you need to support the customer experience side of it. Hospitals have got pretty strong plans in terms of focusing on how do I treat patients. Satisfaction seems to be more, and for the outreach of that side, seems to be more complex. Banks and retail is really in growth stage. I think retail and banks were early on into doing surveys, doing base level customer experience, doing cross selling, but we found that um, looking at customers across the board, that specific cross-selling and checking the box, and I've got to have a certain measure. If you don't really tie the loop and the way your processes work, you can easily get driven towards a measure, not really towards value for your company and making that count for the customer. And then hospitality, I think, is probably the leader in some of these spaces. As their industry has changed the last couple of years, they really had to change how they interact with customers to survive. Hospitality is obviously um, always focused on that service experience, and you don't really have that much time if something goes wrong in the event of someone is on site on your property to really handle those things later on. If those case management at that point has got to be quick, but then also on a broader scale, offer management has been a big play there and probably bigger and more directed than retail because of the broader knowledge we have in the loyalty space and the hospitality space. Now, we see specific use cases, just a couple of examples, specifically in these four verticals we've really gotten into and focused on. We'll actually a bit later get into a couple of examples, and then in our broader roadshow, which we start hosting from next week, we'll go into really in-depth examples in the specific industries and also why we rate them in terms of maturity as we rate them. Now, this is sort of the where the rubber hits the road, who should be looking at this, whose worlds are being transformed. And if we look at the list of people here, we see being impacted by these system changes and also really customer interaction changes. It's pretty broad across the company. I think gone are the days where it could be marketing's problems, sales' problem, IT's problem. We're really all in it, and it's starting to really affect the core ways of how you operate your company. You've got to be um, more nimble in a way than we've ever been before. We've got to also unlock our data. So a lot of our value of companies are tied up in the data. And you've heard this before when people are talking big data and really business intelligence. It's now come the whole circle. It's now about how do I actually interact and do activities based on my data. So how do I not just get a report, but when I'm talking to a customer on a phone or interacting with them over a website, how do I put enough information throughout your company um, in that specific spot in front of that person is really working with this customer to maximize the quality and the experience for both sides. For obviously for your customers, happy customers stay, happy customers talk to other customers, but also for your employees. Your employees need to give a high quality service. If it's easy for them to do, they will give a better service or have a better baseline for starting to give a better service. Now, the first solution we're going to look at is really around authoritative data sources. So the whole thing is about your customer data is how do I actually track that golden record? And we've moved away concept-wise from saying it's the real golden, the single source of data. We're talking more authoritative sources. So simple example, if you've got a customer that changes their email address in one system or one point that they deal with you, that should really be the preferred email address going forward for all interactions, except when they decide to use a different one for different interactions. So you need to be able to track that, and customers expect that. They don't expect to have to update things in multiple systems. But unless you have an authoritative source, it becomes really complicated to actually tie all this data together back to all the systems. So this is what, for me, our profiles and preferences positioning is all about. To say, let's put together something declarative that allows you to take data from multiple sources to become the home for some data. Classic example in healthcare where your back-end systems, your big um, healthcare record systems are really hard to add data to and to change. So to have the ancillary data that you need outside of this system, you could store in this system and have the core keys and core data come from that system. So helping you to really spend money in a really lower cost solution to pull together the data from your high value, high change cost systems. And all of this obviously fits into your whole digital workplace, digital transformation. People want to work anywhere. They want to basically be able to connect to each of your systems the way they need to do it to do their job. And secondly, customers want to be part of the process. The days are gone where in banking you're prescribing to your customer. The customer now wants to pick their services. The customer wants to do banking their way. Customers want to check in their way. The whole thing of virtual concierge that you see in a lot of the higher end hotels now, where everything is done by a text and a concierge reaches out to you to ask what you need, how it's going. Firstly, it virtualizes the whole experience. It still gives you that direct contact, but also gives the ability to get ahead of issues because customers will much rather just text you when they've got a problem compared to having to go and look for someone to complain. So you immediately get to address issues, but that has to tie into your whole environment. It all becomes in terms of your internal workspace, but then as well as your external workspace. There's got to be a level of transparency, openness, and open processes. Now, for the profile and preferences data view, it's all about pulling and pushing data from multiple sources. So really building declarative interfaces so you can pull data from as many sources, doing the cross-referencing, doing data aging, data priorities, but then also for other systems to actually come and say, I want this person's shipping address for furniture, for example, um, or for their shipping address for medicine, and having those kind of preferences available or default preferences. So basically, and also your life cycle. So really pulling it together from everything we know about you. So the benefits of this and the setting the data free is a term coined by Herb Quindy from Microsoft, but it is how do I actually pull data from multiple systems and get the value out of it? You spend so much time on your backend systems capturing data about your clients. It's now become time to actually use that, to take that hidden investment and actually make it work for you. And also from a customer perspective, if someone knows everything about you, then your experience is going to be better. A couple of years ago, I went to an hotel in Hawaii, and my friend that was with me, she was feeling bad the one morning, and when they brought room service breakfast, she said, "Oh, just," she told them, "Look, I'm probably not going to have it. I'm not feeling that well." Later on the day, we're sitting next to a pool in the shade. She's still feeling not that great. And one of the bartenders came across and asked if they could make her some toast and tea because they heard she wasn't well. Obviously, Hotel for Life will always go back there. But the big thing was that little bit of customer knowledge makes a customer for life and makes a word of mouth customer that's going to really advertise for you. So the more you know, the more you share information for immediate action, really the better your ultimate customer experience is. And also customers are not always your customers. There's a whole life cycle tied to it. They may come, they may become a customer or prospect, and they leave, they're not your customer anymore. And at some point, you can market and sell back to them when you see where you match them back their profile against really your what you someone you really reaching out to. And in that case, they really become a customer again. So you've got to keep that whole life cycle of how they interact with you. Then, as our most of our focus these days is and should be around mobile first and multiple communication channels. The more information, the more preference you have, the bigger your opportunity to reach out on the right device. If I know you like to receive text messages, I've got a better chance of getting to you via text message than spamming you with email. So knowing those things arms me a lot about how to deal with you and how to actually create a better experience even when I'm selling to you. And then opt in and opt out is a big deal, and it's just going to be more and more about who am I allowed to send what to, and even if it's notifications to keep someone involved and really get to the point where you understand where your system is, or when you are in a process, there's also some opt-in, opt-out implications and the ability to, if you send it to the wrong address or to the wrong person or device, you could um, break the law. So, and we're seeing it more in Canada, we're starting to see it here, and even call times. Um, I'm guessing we will see pretty soon situations where There's actually will be specific times you can text people because of the notifications issues with that. So being ready for those kind of things and being non-intrusive and dealing with the person the way they want to be dealt with is becoming core. So we really need to have your details to be able to do this. Now, as we think about the maturity steps that we spoke about earlier, there's really for us a number of steps you go through and a number of systems you need set up in the background to actually make this work for you. So the first step for us is always the multi-master contact management. So how do you um, tie different sets of information you've got about the same customer across multiple systems, but also as you pull in other data sources and mine public data sources, tying that out all to a single cross-reference. So really a 360 view. And for us, it's obviously multiple approaches to this. We find at times we would actually say, I would rather just know where this is in another system and surface it up. Um, and also making sure there is really a single version of the truth. So understanding aging. So if I get a mobile phone number from system A and system B, making sure I have rules in place to decide which data to use. If I've got no phone number for you, great, I'll take it. But if it's coming from system B and I've already got something from system A, then I don't want to overwrite what's from system um, A already because priority wise, I think system A's data is better. So that kind of thing needs to be done, and we've got solutions to actually help that um, you manage that in a declarative way. Now, just a good example here is cross-selling in banking as well. And as we've seen recently with some things in the news, when you start really managing that kind of processes and you've got customers that are different names in different systems that are not tied together, you really need to manage that and have processes in place to get that single version of the customer, not just for the risk side of it, but also once you start doing extra processes on this to actually make sure that you don't get in situations where you're not managing that data very effectively. Now, I think the second part of it is very much outreach and market segmentation. So when I know who my customers are, I can then start doing interesting things. I can, from their demographics, from the big data I have about them, from the data I've got from my multiple systems, I can now start segmenting the way I outreach. So really doing laser focused tasking and offer management, and also really knowing when, specifically when I do something like cross-selling out of this, to really know that I manage that whole process. So if I cross-sell, it's fine to say, oh, this could also be a potential customer for C and D because of what they've done in managing the offer as that, but you need to really run that process to the end and have your process actually, in a way, have the verification and validation steps as well. So it's great to say, I'm a bank, I need to refer people to new accounts. So as a teller, I get for every new account I refer and gets opened up, I've got a quota and there's maybe a bonus or a incentive bonus tied to that. That's all good and well, but without going that extra step of saying, well, if this thing is open, this account, I need to actually check in 30 days that there's money flowing through it and check it again in 60 days and actually making sure that you're actually getting value out of it. If you don't close those processes down, you you really create a set of measures and management that doesn't at the end drive and make the business better. It just becomes something else people gain to manage their compensation. And as um, people always say, compensation drives behavior. So you want to make sure as you do offers, but also as you do your internal processes and cross sell, that you really use your backend systems effectively to maximize your returns of that. And that's normally for me the second step of this maturation process. The third step is around more complex sales and multiple levels of experience. So in this case, it becomes where I'm selling B2B in terms of, take medical health plans, for instance. I'm selling it when I'm not selling to individuals, when I'm selling to businesses, I'm selling it to your business. But your members inside of that are the real clients ultimately, or the second level clients. And the experiences with them will ultimately drive back to the experience and longevity of that business. It used to be if it's a good deal for the company, it was easy enough to sell it. But the level of social noise these days and everyone um, being happy and prepared and incentivized in a way to refer and do referrals and references and reviews of everything they touch. You can't afford to have individuals on this group sales, this more complex sales, um, not be managed in terms of their customer experience. So that second level of selling to bigger businesses, but then having a membership system below it and really managing the experience there is key. If you can't make that work, it's very hard to make the bigger business model work. And realistically, 5 years ago, it was a different world. But now anyone can say anything. And where in the past it was that way, now everyone can publish anything. And before you know it, you've got a bunch of bad references, unhappy customers, and impacts your business as a whole. There's also more complexities around this, specifically around, how do you make sure with these bigger group events bookings, if you look at loyalty and hospitality, if you look at where let's say I book a convention and something goes wrong, for instance, let's say I've got a fixed cost for food and beverage, a minimum that needs to be covered. And there's an unrelated service case of, oh, an escalator is down, and the comeback later is, oh, we couldn't get our food because some people couldn't get up the escalator or had to find a different route to get to where the food was put. So to be able to get in front of those things that can severely impact your deals and your events, you need systems that are really well tied together and intelligence that actually flows back and is mined in the right way to give you a heads up long before these things become issues. Then managing and visualizing your processes. A lot is said these days and done as well around dashboards and mining data. And to drive that, though, the whole thing about finding that core, my single customer record, or this is my customer in multiple systems, this is all the data sources that's related to this is all the activity data, becomes really key. It's okay to have transactional data, and we all have it, and basic data about the customer, but you've really got to capture every interaction and every discussion and start mining and positioning that as well. There's got to be the single pane of glass where someone can go and say, tell me everything about Rian, so that when I deal with him, I know things he like, he doesn't like. He likes to book his travel on Wednesdays for 2 weeks away, so I probably should send him Tuesday night special offers for travel. And we've seen it in the travel industry with the way flight tickets seem to be better on Tuesday. And if you look at how ads go around that as well, and um, things are so directed these days that we've all got to start living in that environment. If I'm looking for something on Amazon, I don't see ads around that product on in Facebook the next day when I'm browsing around. I somehow feel that marketing didn't work. So those things are becoming key and people are looking for it. It's one of the, I guess, problems in this space is people feel they are. If you ask them, you do reviews, people say they're being bombarded by offers. But the same person will really not be happy if, when they're looking for something, they actually don't get the offers and they're wondering why they get less offers during that time. So it's all about, nearly reading the person's mind to figure out when's the best time to produce them offers to them. And the big data space has become really good at those kind of predictions. The machine learning is really good at that. And all of that ties beautifully into CRM, into the whole offer management space. How do I, as I know things about you, as I'm going to interact with you, how do I make those things actionable? So it's the beauty of the offer managers. If someone is involved with you in a process, they've got a case, they've placed an order, anything where they're interacting with you, that is a golden opportunity to self-advertise at that moment and to manage offers. So as your processes um, become more robust and easy to visualize, customers will be also be more interested in those ads and offers. So if you're having a good experience with a specific case, specific process you're following with a company, and at that point they um, put offers that are interesting to you, your chance of clicking on that is much higher, and you've really got a captured audience. So this is for me step four when you start looking at every interaction and utilizing big data, machine learning, other things you know about the customer to do really directed marketing. Then obviously the ultimate point in maturation is the real connected call centers. Call centers in a way I think is seen as sort of old hat by the industry. Call center is becoming a hybrid in a way. So many times it's now through a chat, a web bot, IM, um, and I see that in the call center space as well, but also just the classic picking up a phone and speaking to someone, or going to a website and creating a ticket and following a case, or putting a complaint or a comment, or going to Facebook and posting something on a company's site. All of those things really need to funnel through the multiple channels into a path that really maximizes that interaction. If I'm going to deal with you, if I'm an analyst and I'm on the phone with you or I'm in chat with you, I need everything I possibly can about you as my customer in front of me in that single pane, because I need to maximize that experience. No one likes to get on the phone and complain and ask questions about stuff to get things done. So if you can get on there and that can be maximized, offers can be made, you've got an empowered call center, managers, analysts, and the customer feels that their time isn't wasted. And during that time is obviously also a incredibly valuable time to get extra data, to drive questions, to verify your current data. So those couple of minutes on a call should be maximized as much as possible, but also made um, really simple for the customer. So not to, oh, wait 5 minutes while I'm going to look up your records. It's got to be there. You've got to know the issues. You can say you want to know when they last phoned in. You want to know what happened during the last interaction. You want those notes to be shared. So really the nirvana of call centers, but You can't have that customer interaction nirvana, and you should think of a call center as all channels. You can't have that channel connection if you don't really have the rest of the layers in place, because to drive the good data, to drive the feedback of the data, to drive the actions, the ability to make decisions, the authorization to do decisions is it's really core that you've really positioned where you can have every bit of data at your fingertips, but also have the ability to quickly make decisions and just help the system, have the system help you drive decisions. Now, just a couple of quick things. We've got about 10 minutes left. Just about our authoritative data solutions. So we really have the CRM platform at the bottom to do all the nice things the platform does, security, relational models, all the platform services. Then a party model on top of it, but a full lifecycle model on top of it. And then on top of that, the integration layer, really allowing you to have services, to have data feeds, and have as much of that be declarative as possible. The goal should be use current sources, current dumps, current feeds you have, and map them yourself inside with your EIA models to that. So that's the one side of what we're positioning and building that out, what our IP is about, is really putting that together. Then on the other side, the other kind of solutions is an example from healthcare around very much ACA on exchange issue management. So the background here, so when customers buy healthcare, buy ACA, and they buy it from the government system, HIC CMS, those, when they have issues, they log it there, and then that goes out to the providers, the payers that handle those cases. And there are SLAs that the government has with these clients, the SLAs that the payers then have on their side. There's also um, internal SLAs for groups inside of your company to say, well, if it's a member wasn't created right and it's got to move to that or to the billing department to handle those SLAs as well, because anything like this where it becomes case management, where it actually is to do with um, patient wellness, it's you obviously want to perform and monitor your performance and make sure as issues come up, you can handle them in the right amount of time. Some of these things got 24-hour turnaround times if someone is waiting for an operation or something like that. So you can't let things slip between the cracks. You need really, really strong analytics, but also operational view of what's happening all the time. So this specific solution we built, and then the generic models we built onto that, was very much about how do you have a customer management tool that can handle thousands of call center operators or people that interact with your customers, members, but then also how to make sure the SLAs get handled across the board. So there's no loopholes, there's visibility to management, automating steps, also making sure that the process is managed and very repeatable from that perspective, and that it's for people that are actually using it and the analysts day to day, that their tasks are very well defined. So if they have to create notes, giving them templates so they've got notes that are in standard formats, because all of these things, obviously, in this kind of case management, and in most case management, can at some point get back to legal issues. So if all your communication is templated, it's just gives overall better protection for you and better customers experience. All the documents look the same way, all the emails look the same way, all the notifications look the same way. It also helps the transparency where you can notify your customers as things move through different stages. It just makes it such a more just wholesome experience when you actually know what's happening with your case if you're waiting for something and it's really critical. Then I think anything like this, and specifically with the solutions we built there, it's about collective insight, so everyone knows what's going on. It's about, again, ultimately retention of members and your customers. Giving them a good experience means there's going to be good word of mouth, but also they're not going to be unhappy with the process. They may be unhappy with the outcomes, and that's managed differently, but also this is where it comes to systems being very guided. So if I give you enough information, I tell you precisely why things were did or done, you may not be happy with the outcome because it may have been in your favor, but you understand why the decision was made in terms of the black and white, this is why we made it, which is still a step better than just being told no and you don't understand what happened and how the process was done. Also, of course, as you gather information, a massive amount of information with this kind of system, you can then manage outreach. So if I know something happened with a specific case with a specific member, I can start mining that data and then reach out to specific members with other ways to do things, with help with other plans. So you can really, as a second tier, go back and um, deal and enhance the experience. So the second tier experience, it's the life cycle of experience really. You've had an experience, now we're going to reach out to you and make you um, feel more inclusive and extend our relationship with you, because on any experience you can build more relationship. And then obviously risk is a big part of this, making sure everything's marked, every interaction is marked and everything is carried along. And this is sort of a bit of an overview of this tool in terms of talking to different systems and portals for regional managers. We tend to, specifically in our approach to the digital workplace, we see normally at least two levels of um, people doing direct interaction, sort of more per case or an activity-based people really coming through portals where it's a lot of data, but it's more informational and simple interfaces, then more complex interfaces for analysts that have to, for case escalation and managing that, and then obviously the high-level views for managers in terms of reporting and understanding what's happening from minute to minute. So in this specific case, there was very much looking document generation for specific cases. There was specific advanced reporting. There was data pulled from complex backend systems to tie the data together for people managing the cases, giving business analysts and managers the ability to manage their cases, creating dashboards for aging of cases, slicing and dicing of it, and then for regional call centers and the managers, a way to quickly look up a case for someone to see what's there, to put notes on it, to manage history, and also to see very much from a person perspective. So you calling in, I'm, I look up your record and I immediately see all the cases currently working and historical with you. So immediately, and as well, all your other people registered on these plans and related people. So immediately I get a very wide view of what's happened with you, what's currently pending. So I can start at immediately helping you instead of really having to go and look up all your data separately. Now, I think the 360 view really, for a member in that case, really gives you the ability to tie together your experience with it, but also maximize your value add to that customer. The ability to immediately take action on data you see. So if I see 3 open cases for you, and they all look to be similar cases in different statuses, I can immediately say, well, it's the same person probably tried to do 3 or 4 things. Let's tie them together. Or, there's been 4 cases about the same thing that's been closed at different times. this person has really been, waiting for a solution for this for months instead of just this last case that says they've been trying to fix this for 10 days. So getting a holistic view, or this person has been ongoing issues with a specific aspect, so let's understand better what's going on instead of just creating another case and moving it along. And then also your cross-reference across systems. So if I know you moved from this area to this area in your medical record was X and now it's B, um, I know how to go and look then at different providers, what happened, and get a better view about your experience in general. Or just notes across systems, to have notes from multiple systems, and the ability for notes to always go with the latest case. So when someone looks it up, there's immediately a note on your record they can refer or review. So it's just sort of some of the background of the Affordable Care Act project we had. Really the challenge pulling it all together. The solution was really taking the profiles, preferences backend, and then building business rule engines to get their data in so you could actually have preferred data and data around your customer. And then really the benefit is the 360 view, the ability to combine from the SIM systems, having a single authoritative source, and then giving people that are on the phones talking to you via IM in a clinic somewhere more access to your data. And this was more just the overview itself, looking for what we do in the space. Very much the push and pull of core system data, multi-master, member information, pulling that together, then managing outreach management and segmentation from that point. How do I then do the outbound marketing? Um, Looking at opt-in, opt-out, so the people's specific preferences, then preferred communication channels, and then tying this all back to a call center. Thank you very much for listening today. Um, do you have any questions?